Hey guys, I'm RJ Roger. This is Black Handprint Mafia. Very quickly, before this video begins, what I would like to share is that this is an edited piece that comes from a larger discussion that I had, that I participated in with Michael. It was never intended to be released publicly. We were testing our equipment. And later on, when I played this back to myself, I said, wow, this is something that I believe the public would really enjoy hearing. So I called Michael for about a month and begged him and said, Michael, please allow me to release this and allow people to hear this other side of the subject. Okay. So from the time I started my channel until I sit here right now, my goal as a content creator was to unearth the other side of Cosa Nostra that is not typically spoken about. There's a theory, a philosophy, ideals, okay, that is buried within this rich heritage, okay? But most of what we hear from people who put out information on Cosa Nostra is where are the bodies buried, how gangster was somebody, and who's a stand-up guy because they either A, died in the street, or B, died in the prison cell. But it's a very complex reality, a very complex society, I should say. And there's more to it than just these simple things, okay? So my goal is to deliver a theory-based content to my audience. And that's what I've always tried to do. This discussion between Michael and I shows a side of a boss that nobody ever discusses, okay? Discussions on a boss are typically very one-sided. But people have families. They have children. They are men that have to lay down at night and think about things. Or they're just complete sociopathic killers out there that existed in that world that felt nothing but a desire for power and rule by means of brutality. Absolutely. But are there other elements to a boss and bosses that have existed within that life? I'll be very interested to hear what you guys have to say about Michael DiLeonardo's boss, friend, someone that he loved, John Gotti.
Well, I could see John being extremely rigid with his family. Yeah, absolutely. Because his family was really off limits to anything. He brought nobody in that house.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, he didn't have guys. That's why I was stunned when he invited me that first New Year's Eve when I got straightened out.
The house in Howard Beach.
Yeah.
You were inside that house?
Yeah. Twice.
Wow.
Well, actually more than twice. But that New Year's Eve, he invited me. He said, "Where are you going doing for the bells?" I said, "I'm going to be by my in-laws." He said, "Why don't you come by my house after the bells?" I mean, kid, come by your house. It was Tony Lee, Don Pizzonia, his son John, me. That's it. He had a little room on the side with a bar, and we drank there till about 4 in the morning.
So you think that Senior looked at you like a little bit more like different?
He was grooming me. He was
really
to let me in his house was huge because he let nobody in his house. Again, I was sitting at he invites me over for dinner, and invite me over for dinner. You know what I mean? And it was around Christmas time next year. He had all these cases of wine, rum, and I picked the wrong wine, by the way. I still got 2 bottles from him, but I picked the wrong one. The other ones are 12, 14,000 a bottle. This is only about 3,000 to 5,000 a bottle. He says, pick a wine. I said, "Nah, John." He says, "Take a bottle of wine. Take any one you want. Take whatever you want," he told me. So I remember him, Petrus, Roman Conti, Petrus. Let me get the Petrus. So I took that, and I was there that New Year's again, and then right after Christmas again.
Wow. Is he a lot different than like his public persona that he's kind of known for? Is he?
He's always soldiered up. I mean, you know, in his house he was different, but not much different. You know, I know why I was there. I didn't realize it then. As much as you know, as time goes on, he wanted. For some reason, he had eyes on me.
Wow.
You know, when it got out to some people that I was at his house, not through me, you know, and it got out. He must have bragged because he likes to brag. If he likes you, he brags about you in front of everybody. In front of everybody. If he don't like you, you're getting it. You're getting your ass opened. Or if he wants to get a message, he'll be talking to you, and the message will be for that guy over there, and you'll be going, what is he talking about? You say to yourself, what the fuck's he talking about? You want the message for that guy.
Yeah, you told me that. That's the funniest story that you that I think you did when you, and like when you said about Jackie, when he would see you and Jackie together, but look at you and be like, what is like, is he gonna flip flop? Gonna flip flop?
So, you know, but when I first got, I think a lot had to do when just before I got straightened out, and I thought about chopping my head off with the cocaine.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
When I looked at him, looked in his eyes, not hard, but just, hey, you hear that? You can chop my fucking head off. He says, don't worry, I will. He looked right at me, you know. And I think from there, again, he would be with X amount of captains. He's always, whether it be 6, 8, 10, whatever was available on whatever day, a Saturday, a Raven night meeting, he would talk. RJ, nothing would come out of their mouths unless he directed a question at them. Nothing. They walked on eggshells with him.
Really?
Oh, he did all the talk. He loved to talk. He was a lot like me, but John was more directive in his talking. You know, he was a leader in conversation and all this dialogue, subject matter. Nobody say, hey, John, what do you think of the Yankees? Nobody said anything. There was mute. They were all sitting there worried about they may say something fucking wrong.
Wow. And was that everybody? Yeah. Anybody?
Well, his brother, no. Joe Watts, no. Jackie the actor, no. They all had liberties with him. Bobby Borriello, definitely not. Bobby Borriello used to break balls all the time with him. Again, not in front of a group hard, but when, you know, in the right setting, Bobby was good. Very good with John. John loved him.
How about you?
Again, you know, when he let me in, he opened the door, we kibitzed. You know, you know, I got those little anecdotal stories when things would go on, and him at a diner telling me about Paul. Who's going to kill me? Me? You know, for some reason, he let me in his life very early when I got straightened out. Personally, you know, in there. The night we got straightened out, right? I didn't go home Christmas Eve. We didn't go home. He went to the club. We had the Bergen, right? Then there was another little club, his brother Richie's club, on the side street where Junior used to hang out with all the younger guys. He tells Jackie where he's going. Yeah, we're gonna go home. He said, come for a drink. Where? Near the Bergen. I says, this is Christmas Eve. I'm exhausted mentally, you know what I mean? I want to digest all of this stuff. We wound up in the fucking Bergen until 10:30 or something like that, 11 o'clock. Christmas Eve after I get straightened out. And there was, again, 12 guys there, 13 guys, the most. John would be there by the fireplace, drinking some martinis, telling stories, talking. So he had from then, like I said, he had this little intimate group.
Wow.
And that's when he would let his hair down and drink and just hang around. Be more himself.
And
you know what? Not to interrupt you, but this is how, you know, with somebody you know at that level, at any level, any business, your boss of IBM, anywhere, any corporation of that level, lets you in their world privately to a private party, you see things differently. You see that person act and talk a little differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know you're special.
More familiar, yeah. Like more familiar. Yeah.
You know you're a little special in that forum.
Yeah. I heard Jackie Knows say, and I know this quote because I used it in my book, but Jackie was getting off the 6th train or 5th train, whatever, 5 train. But the reporter stopped him and said something, and he said, in all my years, all the men I've ever known, he said, John's the only man I've ever known that could walk that fine balance of being loved and feared. Where
I never heard that.
Yeah, I have it. I have the he said that he has and he's continued talking, and he said that people don't cross a man. People will cross someone who they fear. They might cross a man who they love, but nobody crosses a man that they love and fear. Jackie Knows said that.
Very hard.
But that sounds like what you're saying, that people feared the hell out of him, but also probably really loved him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, you know, with all the mistakes.
Did you love him?
Yeah, I idolized him. Even Sammy, same thing.
But your heart truly felt a love for Senior Gotti.
Yeah. I never would have betrayed him unless they knew they were gonna kill me. I never would. Again, I walked at the meetings thinking I was gonna get killed after John was off the street. You know, again, you know, I beat the trial in Atlanta. I go meet Pete and Richie, and I took Eddie Garofalo with me, right? And this was like right after I beat the trial, and I went to see him. I met him in a restaurant called London Lenny's. And we were talking about the trial and all this, congratulating me. Nice. So he says, I know why you went to trial. I says, why, Pete? He said, you did that for my brother. I said, you bet your ass.
Wow.
His son didn't go to trial. And who knew the backdoor stuff, the backroom stuff that was done by Junior, the father? Later on, we see the video, right? With him and the FBI in the room and all that stuff. But that was going on, and just before my trial, all that stuff was going on, you know. So when I go to trial, I have communications with Senior in prison. His nephew flipped, his wife's nephew. Our brother, Vicky. No, Vicky Gotti, the mother, John's wife. Brother's son flipped. John DiGiorgio. I'm going to send you the article. I'll send it to you. Okay. He flipped. He flipped on Stevie Kaplan, which was me also.
Okay.
So we were going back and forth. I sent messages to Junior too. What's going on here with this fucking guy? You know, is he really going to show up at trial, this guy? And I really got there's so much. And John flipped out. Know what his message to me was? The fuck you doing dealing with that scumbag or fucking nephew of mine? I want to tell him, if I was there, John, your son put me with him. I don't know. What do I know about your nephew? What are you doing with that? What's Michael doing with that fucking scumbag nephew? That was the message I got back.
You knew like everybody. I mean, you met a lot of guys. Like, was John one of like the more feared guys? I mean, like of all the guys you met, did John just have something about him that you didn't see in other people you were around?
Yeah. No, John had presence, charisma. He had presence, and when you went in the room, you felt John. It's hard to explain. You knew who he was, what he's capable of. Paul had presence, no matter what they want to say. The guy, look, you're looking at a guy that has the power of life and death, and your future. Never mind life and death. Your whole future is in their hands. Your upward progression or your downward. Any way you're going to go. If you're in that life, these are the guys who can decide your future. So when you're in there, in their presence, you feel it. But John was just a bigger than life guy. I know it's a tongue-in-cheek thing to say, but that was John. And if he complimented your tie, it was more than the tie he was complimenting.
Really?
A lot of great dresses. There was a lot of great dresses, and I never heard John say, "Hey, that's pretty nice you got over there." Nobody dressed better than John. For John, you know what I mean? If one day somebody came with the same tie as him to the club, Joe Watts went on, take that fucking tie off. I got a lot of little stories, a lot of funny stuff. Joe Watts, I'll tell you what kind of guy he was. He would go to this exclusive shop in Manhattan called Take Six. When I had a few dollars, I started shopping there, right? But he would go in there, and Arabs owned the store, Hashimis or whatever the hell the name was, but they got high-end stuff all the time. Very expensive. Joe Watt would say, I like that tie. How many you got? Joy, we got 10. Give me all 10. He would put him away or throw them away, and we have the only tie. Don't sell it to nobody else. If you get any more, you can't sell this tie. And that was with John, the same thing. The suits. John didn't dress like that always. That was Joe Watts. Joe Watts.
Oh, Joe was a good dresser?
Oh, boy. Yeah, he was one of the best in history. Let me mind. Era history, one of the best dressers.
Wow, I wouldn't have, huh?
Oh, yeah, he dressed John. He brought John the places, the tailors, the everything, shirt makers. Yeah.
So what was kind of like,
not like that.
How did he like treat people? Like, was he like was he like a gentleman? Like, was he like, or was he?
I'll give you one. He won't call you by your nickname. My name's Michael, right? It's Michael. He would never say Mike, Mikey, Michael. If your name was Tommy, no matter how many people call you fucking Tommy for how many decades, you were Thomas.
Wow.
Now, another little thing. I mean, we could go all night long with John. That just was started. John comes off on tape, and the way he spoke to people, very hard, very street, almost gutterish, hard on the English language. He would say ting instead of thing. He would say thousand instead of thousand. John knew how to say thousand. John knew how to say thing.
So why?
Hard. He wanted to come off
projection,
hard.
Just projecting a hard image.
Ting, thing, articulate. He wanted to be inarticulate, but get his point across. He wanted to never, and that was a point with myself. I had a huge vocabulary growing up. Again, I went to college, and I was a very good reader. I was reading comprehension. I read a lot. I was very articulate. When I hung out in the street, I was using a $2 word, not even a $5. That was out of question. $2 word? No. Once in a while with John, yeah, I knew how high his intelligence was. Sammy, you talk straight.
You think that's one of the things that John might have saw in you?
Could be.
That made him attach himself to you. I mean, I guess like what I wonder about is, because all we ever hear about guys from your life is, you know, how hard they were, how they made their bones. But I often wonder, like, you know, how they treat a woman, how they treat it, like if they're walking past someone, like, you know, how they, you know, are they hospitable, like the way you were?
Very. He was super respectful to women, super.
Yeah. Wow.
He wouldn't allow anybody to say that about him. He wouldn't allow it.
What do you mean?
He wouldn't allow to say anybody to act like a degenerate, or you said something stupid, or call the woman a cunt or a twat, or I use all those terms that guys would use when they're drinking. He would never allow the street, in his audience, in his public, as he said. John would never do that. And if he heard anybody doing that, you would get admonished. They would get admonished. He wasn't into that. He was a gentleman. I tell you what, I have a different. I've seen him in a different way at different levels and different times. The guy was a gentleman.
Was he like a caring guy? Like, so say like, could he sense if you were having a bad day? Like say you was having a bad day. But he say, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Hey, you okay?" Or was he that kind of?
Very observant. Look, if he knew somebody had a relative that was sick, right? He opened the conversation. I heard your sister-in-law got cancer. What kind of cancer is it? Oh, it's an oat cell. It's a this cell. Yeah, you know, that's a tough one. You know, I wish the best. Maybe you should go see this doc. If you need any help, let me know. I got some doctors that can help you. Interact with everybody like that. Very caring. He wanted to know everything about you. Very observant. And you know, that's where his balance was. It's like, wow, John just asked me about my family.
Wow.
You know, when
he would ask that.
All the time. If he heard it and he knew it was a health issue, he was going to show he cared. Whether he really cared or not, that's another thing. but the way he did it, it seemed like he really cared. He didn't like cancer. He was. You could tell.
Do you think he really did care?
Excuse me?
Do you think it was sincere?
Yeah. Yep.
I heard this audio before, and I played it 10 times back to back because I wanted to really see if it was just strategy or if it was real. But I heard this audio where he's picked up on wiretap talking to Sammy, and he's saying, "I don't give a fuck about going to jail. I'm worried about you going to jail, Sammy. I'll do 50 years or something to that effect." He's saying, and he's saying, like, if I go to the can, what do you want to be? What makes you feel comfortable? You want to be consigliere? You want to be you want to be the acting boss? You want to be like, but I played it so many times. And I got to tell you, either I'm crazy, either he's a master manipulator, or because he sounded so sincere in his tone of voice and everything.
I know the tape talking. I heard it.
Do you think that was real?
No.
You don't?
And I'll tell you why. That's the Ravenite tapes.
Yeah.
Look at the totality of the Ravenite tapes. What does he say about Sammy's there? When Sammy's not there, what's he saying? What he's doing is putting in front of Sammy, I want to see what this motherfucker, what position he's going to ask for. I love you. Really? I love you more than myself. I think he said that. Right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's what he said.
I love you more than myself. That's not true. But I think with the totality of what was going on for 1 year, it was about a year they were up, almost a year. And what was garnered in that year, whenever that tape was made about what do you want to be, if it was the first day, I would still be suspect because he had in his mind that bled through every meeting. And, you know, again, I was hearing this stuff in the street, you know, with Sammy taking the garbage business, taking this business. Don't forget, Jackie, I was with Jackie every day.
You were?
Yeah, Jackie was like, you couldn't get rid of Jackie. It was like Velcro. I show up on my job, he was there. They got surveillance pictures all over him on my job as a Teamster. You know, but Jackie was all over. Jackie put a lot of hours into the street. He loved the street. He didn't want to be home. He didn't care about family and being home. He cared about his family, but he didn't care about being home with his family. He cared about being in the street.
Jared, his wife said a few years back, his wife, I think the Daily News or someone knocked on his door.
Yeah, I remember that.
His wife said, he comes and goes. He's been coming and gone for 30 years. I don't know when he's going to be here. I don't know when he's going to leave next. Like, you know, and she said, and that's the way it's been for the last 40 years.
I'll give you a little story. Jack, I told Jack, don't you go home? Because he would go home like the Saturday night and then leave Sunday. He would stay home just Sunday. I said, you going to take your wife out? He says, Mike, the last time I took my wife out was 1964 to see a kill a mockingbird. We laugh, but that poor woman, what she said when that knock at the door, she wasn't lying. The last movie took her to see, find out when it came out. He said 1964. And it's funny to us, but that's Jackie. You know, that's a lot of street guys think like that.
I tell you who I thought about a lot over the years, because me being a researcher, I always think about. Now, you mentioned something interesting when you use that word collateral damage of other people, but the people I always thought as collateral damage were like people's wives, their children, their family. And when I think about Senior's wife, if you look at she buried her son, killed in that bike accident. You know, we know what her husband went through. They had a lot of kids. She essentially had to raise those kids.
When they went together, they were very poor.
Yeah, she had to raise those kids on her own. They struggled in the beginning financially a lot. I think that, and then forget about all the things her husband had to go through. When you think about then her son, John Jr., he went through a lot of. I mean, that's hard on a mother. And then even her son-in-law, I think Carmine Agnello got jammed up. And then all the press and the people outside the house, and just her, I wonder sometimes about what's her night like when she's laying on a pillow. What's she thinking about? What's she going through? As a father, I only have one kid. I can't imagine, like, I can't imagine. I heard John Sr. say to Victoria one day, he said, I'd rather have cancer than for you to have a toothache, to his daughter. That's how I feel about.
That's what I believe. That statement, that metaphor statement, yeah, he was telling the truth. He'd take your pain if he could.